What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Tripp. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Live podcast. We interview the very best real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders all throughout the country. And today we have an incredible guest, my good friend, Mr. Billy Alvaro from New York. What's going on, Billy?
Mr. Tripp, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for having me on, man.
I'm super excited to talk to you. I think you have an incredible story. And not only do you have an incredible story of where you were at the high of highs, and from my understanding, you were at the low of lows, and now you're back at the top of the mountain doing some incredible things in real estate. Billy, just take a quick minute and tell people who you are and what you're up to today in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't go back into the story. We can cover that, I guess, later on. So Billy Alvaro, Long Island, New York. I've been doing this full time since 2009. I've been investing, though, since my first property I invested in, I was 20 years of age. So you're talking, about 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago. So it's been a great run. We're doing right now, we're predominantly in the New York market, New Jersey market, and Pennsylvania. We have a team currently of 12 people, and we have plans of expanding out with another 12 to 14 acquisition members over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. So really good stuff. I've been blessed. It's been a long, hard road. I say hard because it did take a lot for me to get back to where I am. And we can go into, what transpired years back and the lessons I've learned and whatnot. But the market's been in our favor. The market's great. We're predominantly we have a kind of a split process inside. We have renovations that we do, fix and flip. We have, of course, a very large wholesale business. We have commercial units that we own and rent out. And then we also have some single family rentals that we have. We've kind of liquidated the single families over the course of the last 3 years, simply because I wanted to get into larger deals, more doors per roof.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about a couple. Obviously, we're going to go back into your story because I think it's super important. I think story in general is very important. It helps people learn. It helps people, kind of understand. It helps you understand yourself and how you can grow and learn. But I want to talk about some more about, fill in some of those gaps a little bit of what you're doing today, because you just said you have a 12-person operation today and you're about to expand another 12. How long has your current operation, the way it looks today, how long has that been going on for?
So it's been evolving. When I started off in 2009, it was really just me. It was myself with a desk and a computer. And I really had to understand how to treat this as a business and not just do it as a one-off fix and flip. And I went to school. I just started really studying a lot. And I was very apprehensive in the beginning of scaling this business because the last company I scaled it rapidly. And so I took about the first 5 years of really just building the foundation of the business, building my own knowledge first so I can impart that knowledge to the people I brought in. And then every hire I brought in from day one, it was a structured process for bringing them in. I still have my first hire from 10 years ago, my second hire from 9 years ago, my third hire from 7 years ago. And the reason being is I hire in a very specific fashion. And you've heard it said before, hire slow, fire fast. That's my process. But when I bring in not only the right people, I make sure that we get them indoctrinated into the business and up and running as quickly as possible. And so I've systematized, not the whole thing, we're always working, but I've systematized 95% of this business. And so every role when a person comes in, they call me the video professor, because I would sit there and when I hired my first operations girl who was handling short sales and handling dispositions, I just sat in front of my computer for 2 weeks and everything I did, I documented, and then I videotaped it, and it was raw. Like I would literally burp and fart as a videotape, and no cutting, no editing, no nothing. Just me being real, teaching them if I was sitting in front of them. And, they kind of respected it. They appreciated it. And they realized that, this guy is not just like normal companies do, taking me in and saying, here, this is my business, kind of try to figure it out. I did that in my old life. And I realized that if I could systematize each part of my company, and that word systematize is so fucking overused. I don't want to sound like I'm coming out of, one of those books where, hey, work on your business, not in your business. But the truth of the matter is, that E-Myth book is real. And if you implement the way he teaches, and there's a lot of holes in the way he structured it, but if you really implement the way he teaches and you do treat your business, any business that you're in, we happen to be in the investment world, if you treat it like McDonald's, where 16-year-old kids run the business, and you have that process and that thought process from the mindset in the beginning, and you implement it that way, you have a company that's going to sustain, it's going to be able to last long term. And if you decide to, you'll be able to scale it, and you'll be able to scale it. There's always going to be fires, but you'll be able to scale with minimal fires versus my last company where we blew up and there was fires all over the place and we needed to throw bodies at problems instead of processes and systems at problems.
That's awesome stuff. And you've already kind of alluded to some stuff that I really want to get deep in: systematizing, how to create an actual business. You said, in the beginning, it was just you. I think where most people who I talk to struggle is they can't figure out, it's trial and error, and they can't ever actually get to the point where they figured out, how can it go from just me to making that next hire, to actually have that sustained growth. But I want to get into all that as we go. Before we do, Billy, I want to back up. And talk about your story, because I think it's super, super, super important. And by the way, I know the audience has gotten a little bit of a glimpse of it so far, but this episode is going to be rated M for mature. There might be a little bit of language, might be a little bit of graphicness. So
it's who I am.
If that bothers you, I'm just forewarning you now.
Yeah, I won't come across rude, but I do curse. It's part of it's who I am, and some people take offense to it, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. And I am a big believer I hate censorship. I don't believe in censorship. And I believe that we want you to be who you are. And if I try to censor anybody, then I think we're going to do an injustice to the people listening.
That.
So I want to go back and we're going to talk about the how to build the systems and how to grow. And we're going to talk about New York and being in New York. I think that's, we've never had someone on our show from kind of like the city center. And we talked about offline a little bit about Manhattan. You kind of stay out of Manhattan, but just how it's all set up. Like, I don't even know. So I want to get
different way to do business in New York. It's a tough market.
So I want to get into that because I think that's interesting. So many people say, "Hey, don't go to New York. Don't go to New York. It's crazy. You can't do anything over there." But you're doing it. So I want to pick your brain on that and learn a little bit about that. But before we do all that, Billy, tell everybody you had a billion with a B, $1 billion business that you were running in your previous life
from scratch with $5,000 off of a credit card. Think about that. No silver dollar. No, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. No silver platter child. No trust kid. It was me. One semester of college, quit, and then I got this bug up my ass to get into this mortgage business, and it was a great run while it lasted, and I learned a lot. Failed miserably, but I learned so much.
But failed or not, there are so few percentage-wise people who can say that they were running a $1 billion company and $1 billion business, and you were doing that. Just tell the story. Just you don't have to get super, super deep. Get as deep as you want to get. Take as long as you want to take. Tell the story. How did you $5,000 on a credit card? I think that's super fascinating. I think we can learn a lot from that.
So I think one of the things I had in my favor is I was young and I really didn't know what I didn't know, and because I wasn't clouded by past experiences, I honestly thought in my mind, being a 26-year-old kid, that I had the ability, and I believed it wholeheartedly, and that's important because what this believes and conceives it can achieve. Real hard that. I believed it in my mind that I was going to be able to build, and at the time I said it's going to be a $500 million bank, and I was going to sell it to Countrywide. And I had that thought when I first got into the business, when I was a salesperson, working for a gentleman in Garden City, and the owner of that company saw I had a sign on my wall and I said 500 million, and I was 26 years old and I was doing mortgages, and he came over, the CEO, and he says, "What's that?" I go, "That's how much money I'm going to generate on an annualized basis when I have my own bank." And he laughed in my face, laughed at me. He said, "Kid, you have a lot of growing up to do. You have no college. You're here. You're a sales guy. Good to have aspirations and vision like that, but just get back to selling mortgages." That sparks something in me. When I'm told I can't do something, it really does something to me. And I think you're a little similar too, Brian. When somebody tells you you can't, you automatically say, "You know what? I fucking can." And myself and a partner that I went to high school with, we decided we're going to open up our own company. And we went out and it was $5,000 off the credit card. We started the corporation. It took us like 6 months to get our licensing in place. And we had big dreams and big vision. And we had no fear. Cowboys, we had no fear. And it was a double-edged sword because we didn't know what we didn't know. It served us, but it also hurt us at the same time because we made so many stupid ass mistakes that now with the 35 plus years experience, 30 years experience that I have, I would never go down that same road, but I am who I am today because of those experiences. So they both play hand in hand. Within a very short amount of time, just like I started this company where it was just me, it was just him and I in an office, and we started doing loans. And relatively quickly, between the two of us, we hired two salespeople. We were bringing in about $200,000 to $250,000 a month in revenue, and that quickly evolved to a 20-person team. And over 2 years, it was a 150-person team, and over 4 years, it was a 450-person team. And I think it was at the 4-year mark, maybe the 5-year mark, where Inc. 500 named us, not the Inc. 5000, Inc. 500, named us the 136th fastest growing company privately held in America in that segment. And it was like, game on. Everybody that was a naysayer, I was never the guy to blow it in their face, but I was like, I'm doing this. And the confidence grew. Go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah. Billy, how, just like for the people that don't know the mortgage game or even the mortgage game 20 years ago or whenever this was, 30 years ago, the people that just don't are just unfamiliar with that. What was that like? How are you able to do this? What were you able to do that maybe some other companies weren't able to do? How are you able to generate so much revenue so fast?
Right. So that's a great question. And it stems down to two things. And it stems down actually to three things. I failed miserably on the third. We were very successful in the first two. You all know, people should know that are listening, I know you know this wholeheartedly, the lifeblood of any business is marketing. And so if you can figure out how to get a steady stream of people, rapid buyers, in this case, it was either people who wanted to refi or people buying properties. If you could figure out the marketing process and have a consistent flow of leads through your channel, you're going to win. Couple that now with a very strong sales force and you're going to fucking kill it. Now, the third part of that equation, which I failed miserably at because my personality type is sales and marketing, is having a very strong operations. And so what we did, because I didn't know what I didn't know and I didn't have the experience, is I basically fucking imploded my own company. I grew so fast with the sales and marketing that my operations part of the company couldn't handle what was happening. And because I wasn't systematized the way I am now, because I didn't spend my time on setting the company up the right way in the beginning with a strong foundation and having everything systematized out, every person that I had in operation had their own way of doing business. And so there was no consistent method to get a deal done. And when that happens, you get fucked and you get disjointed and you start having to get buyback on loans and your customers get pissed, your salespeople get pissed, and it's a crazy process.
Yeah. So yeah, I was going to ask you, Billy, is like, give me like a more specific example. People throw, like you said it earlier at the beginning of the show, people throw out that word systematize all the time. And give me an actual, like what actually, like, give me like one example of something that happened that wasn't systematized, that if it was, it would have been easily.
Simple process. Great question. So simple process. So file intake. When a salesperson has a deal that he gets into contract, or in this case, he sells the mortgage and he gets him to sign the 1003, which is the application. When he submits it into the processing department, we have processing, we have underwriting, because we went from a mortgage brokerage company, we evolved into a bank. So we had processing, underwriting, closing, post-closing, and then the funding desk. So we had those 5 pieces in operation. The company grew and those processes changed. And so one girl might be doing the file process where she would do 1 through 10 and docket it into the system, where another girl did, steps 1 through 15. And then she went above and beyond and she did 3 or 4 other things. Like she would verify employment up front instead of doing it at the end. So it's hard to explain if you don't understand the business. It was disjointed. There was no consistent flow in the operations center. And when I realized how bad it was, this was like 3.5, 4 years in, I'm like, man, we're experiencing a lot of growing pains. And we pinpointed what the challenges were. It was like, taking a ship and trying to steer a ship that's going this way in one whole swoop to go straight. It took a lot of time and effort and human capital and money capital in order to turn that thing around. And as we were doing it, the market started to change. And that's where all the problems happened. And looking back, if I would have had things more structured, if I would have grown at a slower pace, I would have been able to dealt with the shitstorm that was about to happen. And I also would have been a lot more profitable, because the later years we started to bleed because we were growing so rapidly. We had to bring on more people. And so what happens is, if you're not systematized, you don't have the right processes in place, I ended up throwing bodies at problems instead of automation and processes and systems at problems. And so I became very top heavy in the business. And again, the saying is, I didn't know what I didn't know. And back then, I didn't have the right mentors or coaches. I was literally figuring this shit out, like this innate thing that was inside me. And I was just like honed in on the object, and I was figuring out as I went along.
Incredible story. I want to give me a time frame here. Like, when did it start to kind of go south? Is it, 06, 07, 08 kind of stuff?
That's exactly it. Yeah. So we opened up in, I think it was 97, 98. And we had to run right up until the end of 2016. And so we ended up closing and losing everything prior to the whole meltdown happening. But what we realized was that the margins really started getting compressed at the end of 2015, the beginning of 2016. So what we used to sell to Wall Street, we would sell loan packages of pools of loan. We would be making 600 basis points, really 6 points in the back end, or 8 points in the back end. We started seeing our loans get compressed where it went down to 2. So we literally, 75% of our back end income was bye-bye within like a year. And I started seeing the trend lines, and I go, there's something wrong here. As that was going on, we would do a reverse merger to try to back into another company. We would have 5 companies do a reverse. And we had that whole deal structured. We had it like it was in writing, not signed off on yet. I went back to the first round of investors. They had a $4 million investment that they put in as a debt, $4 million rather, debt converted to equity. So it was $4 million. We were paying them 10%. It accrued. After 2 years, they had the option to convert that over to an equity piece and have 20% of the company. And so I went to them because they didn't yet convert. I'm like, look, this is our way to get out of this and to actually cut overhead and to take this thing to the next level. And I showed them what was going on, and they were so smart, they were dumb. And what I mean by that is they just wanted more, and they weren't looking at the whole story. And they ended up saying, if we don't get, they would get like the 1.8 or $2.2 million cash plus a smaller percentage of the big company. They didn't like it, and they ended up suing me. And once the lawsuit happened, I had to go to the board of directors. So I went in with this lawsuit saying, look, this is what's going on. They said, we can't have a public company that we're just getting into with a lawsuit with one of the founders. It's not going to happen. If they don't drop it, unfortunately, we're going to have to remove you from the reverse. And I went back to the first round of investors, and I tried negotiating. They said, all right, we'll remove it, but with prejudice. I think it's with prejudice or without, where they can come back against me. And I went back to the board. They said, if they don't wipe it out entirely, unfortunately, it's over. And they wouldn't wipe it out. And literally overnight, I was dumping in to keep everything going, $1 million of my own money, $2 million of my own money to keep everything going, because I saw the out. And then it just overnight, I looked at it. I sat down with my strategic team. This went on for like 6 months. And literally within like 1 week of just 6 months of back and forth, I locked myself in one of these hotels with my whole team for a week. And at the end of it, we said, you know what? It's not savable. We gotta fucking close this thing down. And overnight, from $1.1 billion, $1.2 billion, $42 to $46 million a year in revenue, to overnight closing shop. And for the next 3 years that followed, it was an avalanche of shit that just hit me. I went into foreclosure. They locked up my bank accounts. I got my cars repossessed. Like it was for me the most trying time in my life, where you really get to know who you are as a man, and you really get to start talking to the big guy upstairs, and you're really literally begging for guidance, for help, and for signs of what to do. It was tough.
Billy, so listening to that story, I think a lot of people kind of think in their mind 2006, 2007, and they automatically go to subprime mortgages, and that's the reason why everything collapsed. But that's not really what happened to you at all.
No,
you were going to go down, pretty much no matter what the market conditions were. If I hear what you're saying, right?
Yeah, well, the market conditions definitely had something to do with it, but it wasn't the implosion that wiped out the whole entire industry. We started feeling it prior to the margins started getting compressed, and because I was heavy with personnel, I
Got it.
couldn't handle it. Yeah, I couldn't handle it. But the way out was doing this reverse merger. So when we did the analysis and we realized with this reverse, it's really going to take us to the next level. If the first round of investors would have done the deal, we'd be having a different conversation now. But it is what it is. It made me who I am today. I mean, the stuff I went through, the challenges that I had to face, and the realization of dealing with who you are as a man at your lowest point, you learn a lot about what you can do, what you can't do, what you can handle, what you can't handle.
So let's pick it up right there, Billy. Let's talk about this for a second, because I think we talk about it, I think, a lot on this show, but I think it does in the mainstream, it gets glossed over, is the mind and what the mind can do to you. And it can tell you you're a failure. It can tell you that, hey, I can't recover from this. It can lead people into depression. It can lead people to suicide. It can lead people to
Correct.
all these ridiculous things because of our mind. Like, just talk about that. Talk about the power of the mind and how you're able to kind of pull yourself up out of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad you're bringing this up because I don't think enough people talk about it. But, 80% of everything that goes on in your life, and especially the success that you can realize, 80% of it is what happens here first. And so for 3 years, when I was literally, for 3 years, I was a drunk. I was on drugs. I went from everything I touched turned to gold to everything I touched turned to shit. I had multiple lawsuits all over the place. I had $14 million in lawsuits, excuse me, in debt that was hitting me. When I was at my lowest point twice in the 3 years, it was in 2008 and again in 2009. And I almost, in Florida, I attempted suicide, a failed suicide, and I'm glad it failed. It failed because when I was writing everything out and I was eating the pills and I was drinking the bottle and I was just mentally fit, my mind was so fucking gone. I was not thinking straight at all. The guy who I am today was not that guy 10 years ago, 13 years ago. I was in such a state of just disarray and panic where I didn't think there was any way out. And I get it now because I went to that brink. I was there. I get and can understand why somebody says, well, how did that guy commit suicide? He was so successful. When your mind goes, and this controls everything, when this gets to its absolute weakest point, it can convince you that your life is not worth living and you end up taking it. Horrible. What kept me here was not the love of life. What kept me, I wish I could say it, I had a revelation with God, or I thought about my family. What kept me here when I was doing this, I got so angry with the thoughts. I had 6 different law firms that were fighting on my behalf, and I was paying them close to $48,000 a month combined, and they weren't doing shit for years. And I got so angry. Brian, at that my mind, it actually turned, and the fear and all this other crap turned to bitterness and fucking anger and then fight. And I literally snapped. I go, what am I doing? What am I fucking doing here? And when that happened, I made myself throw up. I went into a state of panic because now I'm like, what in the hell am I doing? I was 3 sheets to the wind. I woke up the next day, embarrassed to say, but in a puddle of shit, in a puddle of piss, and a puddle of puke. But I was alive. And I woke up at my house in Florida, completely distraught and crazy, and I was alive. And my breaking point that day, what got me there, I don't know if you ever saw the movie A Beautiful Mind. I was so panicked trying to figure out, how am I going to get myself out of this? How am I going to earn money again? How am I going to get myself to the next level? And I was staying I had this big ass house in Pompano Beach on the Intercoastal. And I woke up and I looked around this house with, 17, 18, 19 foot ceilings. And I looked around the whole first story, and every part of the wall, ceiling, the cabinets for the kitchen was filled with those 3x5 Post-it notes, those big ass ones, with ideas about what I was going to do. And I literally looked around and I fucking snapped. I'm like, I'm losing my shit. And that's what snapped me. That's what got me to that point where I'm gone. Like I'm cuckoo. I'm absolutely losing it. I was in the house for a month, and I woke up and saw this, that caused the chaos. That caused me to go down that road, but it also saved my life at the same time. Because when I came out and I started fighting, I realized at that moment, the fight's within me. If I can get my fucking head straight and I can get myself clear again, I'll be able to start winning. But think about this, I had to deal still with $14 million of bullshit. So what did I do? I went online the next day and I got myself to a point where I'm like, I got to start doing something. I couldn't afford the attorney, so I fired all the attorneys the next day, done, all 6 law firms. I went online, I bought a course. I don't know if it's still out there. It's called Jurisdictionary, How to Represent Yourself in Court and Win. And I literally studied an information product on how to go to court pro se and fight my cases. I hired a paralegal. I put an ad on Craigslist, hired a paralegal from New Jersey. I had her write the briefs because I can't even spell my own goddamn name. How am I going to write briefs to go to court? I had her write all the briefs. I had to put everything together, and I went on a mission, and I went back to court, and I started fighting my ass off, and that was my job, fighting to save my ass. And I went to court, and literally within months, I had the $14 million down to $9 million. I had the $9 million down to $6 million. It took me 2 years from 14 to $2 million. These guys were charging me up the wazoo. For 3 years, this was going on with them. Nothing got done. A year, and it's all gone. Why? Because no offense to attorneys, they're needed, but all they do is they bill. And I want results. I don't want to just get billed for bullshit. So when I started having those wins, when I had my first win, and I won the $4.8 million against me, they were trying to say it was fraud, and it was not fraud, and I beat it. With the confidence that I got from that, I'm like, holy shit, I actually have this fight back in me. And it was these little things every day, like just waking up and taking a shower. That was a win. Going to court, making a win. And that got me perpetually. It really gave me momentum, and that momentum became unstoppable momentum. And it just took me to a stratospheric level over time.
Billy, I think you could be an incredible attorney.
I barely made it out of high school.
I think I'm a good arguer. I think you are too. I think you could be. You proved it. You did it.
Yeah.
I remember I had to go to court one time, and I did the same thing. I fired the attorney that I initially hired. I went and argued for myself, and I literally left the other guy. This was all the people that were in the room. It was me, the other guy I'm fighting against, that guy's attorney, the judge, and then the court reporter. That's it. There's 4 of us in the room. And I'm arguing against this guy back and forth. And the guy was just like, all of a sudden he was just like speechless. Like he had nothing to say. And the judge is like,
fight more for you than you. You're going to fight the hardest for yourself, bro. And you did it, and you won.
So let's go back. Let's go back. And I hate to keep dwelling on this, but I think there are people out there that can get something out of this. Billy, you had something in you it seems like from the get. Like you've had some kind of fight in you from when you were probably a kid. Where does that come from?
It's a good question. I think certain things in life, certain people are blessed with that it factor. And I think there's other people who have the ability to do really good in life, but they just need somebody to impart the right mindset and skill set. It's learnable. But in my view, and everybody's different, but what I think is those super achievers, those people who really who experience the lows and the highs and get themselves out of it and go to the next level, it's an inside thing. For me, it's a head thing. And if you talk to anybody who's successful now, lost it, or who's never lost it, but who's just on the stratospheric level, they will tell you across the board, if they're being honest, that their success is because of first their mindset and then their ability to see where they wanted to go and then to work fucking hard every single day. And so I remember being a kid in school, and I remember being young. I was like in 4th or 5th grade, and I would go around on 4th of July and I would get the firecrackers that didn't blow up, and I'd sell them. I'd gather them all up and I'd sell them for like a nickel or 10 cents a piece. And then when I was in 7th grade, I said, you know what, Dad, who's the guy who sells firecrackers? And we'd go to his house and I'd buy mats. I'd buy a mat for $4, and it was like, I guess, 40 packs in a mat. And I would sell the mats to the kids in the neighborhood at 50 cents a piece. Older kids. And I started realizing they're paying $20 for a mat when they could be paying $4. So they're like, why am I paying you 50 cents? Sell me the mat for $5. I'm like, I'm brokering the shit out. I'm like being smart. So I've had this thing in me with the mindset. The first book I read, I was young. It was the skinny book. I know you read it, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And that book, when I read it, it sparked something inside me that just, I couldn't stop thinking. In my mind, all I can say is, if I could think about this enough, eventually, and if I take action, it's going to come to fruition. And the friends I had when I was younger, they'd make fun of me. I used to have a little thing. I was in probably ninth grade, and I had the paper towel from high school, from the school class, from the bathroom, and I wrote on it, "Life without risk is no life at all." And I had it on my board in ninth grade. And my friends were like, "What the fuck does that mean? Like, what does that even mean?" But to me, if you want to get anywhere in life, you got to take a risk. Calculated, yes, but you have to risk. And the one thing that, there's many things that separate winners from losers, but the winners from people who have the ability to achieve, but they don't go to the next level. For me, it's not being afraid to take a risk. I gamble on myself, calculated, but I gamble on myself a lot. I'm not a freewheeler where I make rash decisions and throw the dice and hope for the best. I make calculated decisions, but I make them quickly. I gather the information I need, and I just implement like a fucking beast. And when you don't do that, and when I lost my business, I was the proverbial deer in the headlights for 3 years. I couldn't make a decision. I couldn't get out of my own way because I was riddled with fear. And that fear literally paralyzed my brain. And it caused me to be the man that I'm not. It caused me to be somebody that I'm not. But that's the power of the brain. Your body will react, and you will act as if your brain tells it. And I was riddled with so much fear and doubt and worry that I was literally walking around afraid to make decisions. And any decision I did make, I labored over it, and I would make the wrong decision because I would just overthink it. And once I got back to being the true me, my true self, life is easy. Life is fucking easy, but you have to be true, and you just need to act and implement and know and realize and understand that you're going to fuck up, you're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to lose shit. But if you have the ability and you're resilient and you can get over that shit relatively quickly because it's not permanent, hence I'm back. Nothing is permanent except for freaking death. If you have the ability to do that, brother, you can accomplish anything.
So I want to go back to a couple of things that you said. I love it. I love that. I love it. You said that some people just have it. Some people are just born with the it factor. And I agree with you. Some people have that. Most people don't. But I agree with you. You said it's a skill you can learn. You can learn it.
Yes.
And I think that's me. Like I think I always had something, but I was always told, no, I'm no good. I'm not going to be able to amount to anything. And I just never believed I could be anything. I was told the opposite. You allowed them though to get into your head, and you believed that you were not going to be able to. Totally. I didn't know any different.
Wow.
Yeah. 100%.
Wow. And was this family? Was it friends? Was it teachers? Like, who was it?
Yeah. All the above, mainly family.
All the above.
Mainly family.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And but listen, Billy, there are people out there like me, and maybe not that quite dramatic, but I think, just based on the people I've spoken to, that the majority of people don't have the it factor. The majority of the people just don't have it. And I think you I don't know if you did this on purpose, but I think you laid out the formula to get it. And this is what I heard you say, and I want you to kind of talk about this for a second. This is the formula you just laid out. Number one, it's mindset. It's you got to change your thinking, whether it's you're reading books, you're getting a mentor, you're getting a coach. You have to have your mindset changed. Number two, you said you have to have a clear path. You have to have a vision. You have to have a vision, a place. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? One, mindset. Two, vision. And three, just work your butt off. Implement it. Hard work. Talk about that. I know you're on your cell phone right now, but did you hear me?
I'm taking notes. I'm
Okay.
writing down what you just said. So okay. I'm not handwriting, but I would never be rude in text ever when I'm on a conversation with somebody.
I didn't know.
So I wrote down the mindset, the clear path, vision, and the work your butt off, and
take risk.
That really, and you have to take risks, right? Let me put that in there because I just want to make sure I gather everything.
This is what you said. These are your words. I'm repeating these back to you.
I know, and I appreciate that. And not to blow smoke up your ass. I watch your REI live. What I appreciate about you is you have an ability to ask really good questions. You take notes and you get into people's heads. You're very good. Like, think about radio. You're very good at what you do, bro. Like, you have an innate ability to draw out, and you ask fucking great questions. That's important. But getting back to it, those 4 things: mindset, having the vision, working your butt off, and taking risks, 100%. But how do you do it? Yep. So some of the questions get about, like, how do you do it? And I read a book a while ago from D. Graziasi. It's called the Millionaire Success Habits. And inside the Millionaire Success Habits, he actually has a formula to become and to do what you want to do and how to achieve. And he laid it out. I think he ended up getting it from who's the guy that his group he's in? Anyway, it's eluding me. He's in somebody's group.
Tony.
The big guy. Anyway,
Tony Robbins.
No, it's not Tony's group. The other guy who does the anyway. He's one of those. So he said, if you really think about what you're doing in life, and you want to be successful, what's the basis of it all? The basis of it all is really confidence. It comes down to confidence. Now, if you think about that, it's almost like the chicken and the egg. Like, what comes first? How do you get confidence? If you think about a time when you've done something, and once that something was accomplished, you're like, holy shit, man, I can do this. Maybe it was asking that girl out that you never wanted, that you're always afraid to ask, and you finally asked her, and she said yes. You're like, your confidence goes through the roof. Or that first sales job that you took, and you weren't 100% confident you were going to be able to do it, but you got your first deal, you got your first lead, you got your first transaction, and you're like, holy shit, how did you feel afterwards? You felt confident. So confidence, to me, and I agree 100% with what he said, it is the basis, it is the foundation, the bedrock of success. And how do you now build on confidence? It starts with, from what I understand, courage. You have to first have the courage to do something. Now, if we go back to my story, I had no confidence when I was on my couch wanting to commit suicide. My confidence level was down the toilet. I could not get anything done. My head was weak. I was completely screwed. When I had the courage to step up, and I had to figure out how to get myself to that point where I can take that step, and it was literally figuring out that I wanted to live. I had the courage to take that step and get myself to the next level. You can equate that to anything. It's courage by saying, you know what? I really want to go introduce myself to that girl. And if you don't do it, if you never take that step, you never get it. If you take that step and you have the courage to do it, you create momentum. And once you start creating that momentum, man, what happens? Coincide with that, it's commitment. When you have the courage to do something and then you commit to saying, I'm going to do this, and you actually do it, you're actually gaining momentum. And the third part of that is the capabilities. And that's something I know you and I believe wholeheartedly in, because we develop ourselves. When you have the courage to do something and you make a firm commitment to yourself, and it's a non-negotiable commitment, and you take action, and you not only take action, you're inside and you're learning. Like when I had to fight these lawsuits, I had the courage to fight. I made a commitment that I was going to do it. And then I got the capabilities by actually going out and buying that course and saying to myself, I can do this. And guess what happened? When I won my first fucking case, my confidence went through the roof. And then I had unstoppable, perpetual momentum. Nothing can stop me. That formula, if people can embrace that and digest it and really believe it, coupled with the mindset, the vision, the working your butt off and taking risks, those 8 combined, dude, you have the most blessed life in every area, financially, spiritually, mentally, relationships, anything you want to do, have it become. With those 8, it's done. It's over. Game on, game over. Bring it. That's it.
Mic drop. Game over. It's done. This podcast is over. There's nothing left to say. I can't even agree more. It's incredible stuff, Billy. I love when you get fired up, man, because your heart's in the right place. And that's what I really appreciate about you, is your heart is in the right place. And when you see, for me, it's TV, because I'm not from New York. I'm not in New York. But like when you see stuff on TV, a New Yorker, I don't think that their heart's in the right place. I think that they're just going to stomp on through me. But like, dude, I super appreciate your heart is in the right place. And not only
thank you
being able to build yourself up from where you were, build it up, come all the way down and build it right back up. I want to finish on this note. Okay. Talk for the people out there that might be struggling. They're doing just the one-off deals. It's just them. And they're doing one-off deals here and there and there. This is the biggest point of contention that I see with brand new people who are trying to build a true business. How do they go from doing one-off deals here and there and working their tail off in the business to actually creating something with systems and processes? Give me one or two nuggets, one or two actionable things that people can take.
Yep. So as soon as you do something that works, that means it's repeatable. If you do it once and it works, that means it's going to work the second, third, and fourth time. Document that process. And so once you go through and you have a script that works over the phone, that connects with people, and that your conversion ratios now go from 10% to 20%, document it. Audio record yourself, video record yourself, put it in a process and a checklist. When you have an appointment that you go on, you're able to connect with the people, document it. The more you document and take down, whether it be in bullet points or video or whatever, document your process. You then have the ability, a blueprint, to bring somebody in, and you could say, okay, my first hire, which if I was solo again on my own, my first hire would be an assistant. I wouldn't hire anybody else but an assistant first to take away the bullshit stuff that's important but does not make me money. I don't want to do bookkeeping. I don't want to do paperwork. I don't want to do my fucking phone stuff. I want to be able to make money. So what do I have to do in order to offload? And I'd say, okay, if I want to hire an assistant, I know it's going to cost money. So I know I need to bring in, right now I'm doing one deal a month, and every market's different. That one deal a month is equating to $25,000 a month. All right, I'm doing good. I'm consistently doing a deal a month. I'm making $250,000 a year. Let's just say it's a deal every 3 months. You're only making $100,000 a year. Hire yourself an assistant, invest $40,000 into that assistant, and then give him or her a bonus on the deals that happen. And a lot of people, this is where they get stuck. I'm not giving up $40,000. I need that $100,000 to live on. You're never going to get anywhere if you don't invest in yourself, your business, the processes, and the systems. You got to give to get. You have to live like frugally as a motherfucker for years in order to get where you want to go. Dude, I was eating bubbly peas. When I lost my business and I was living on top of the world and I had a limousine driver and houses all over the fucking country, and I was living. I went from that to eating bubbly pizza like 5 nights a week because I had to. And when I did that, and when I started my new business, I didn't go out and buy new cars. I didn't go out. I didn't remodel my home. I didn't do shit for 5 years. I didn't buy new clothes for 5 years. Why? Because I'd say I'll struggle today to have to pay off tomorrow. And so with a lot of guys and girls who are in this business, and it's very easy to get caught up with the gurus saying you can make millions of dollars, and you can, but what they don't tell you, and that's freaking important, is you need to invest in you and your business, and you need to fucking sacrifice. You can be a one-hit wonder. You can make $100,000 a year right now and be 20 years old and be like, yo, I'm living it like crazy, but you're spending 110. You're broke. You're broke. I know guys who make $1.5 million, $2 million a year, and their expenses are $1.5 million, $2 million a year. They're broke. They're just making more money. Their lifestyle is great, but they're broke. They have nothing to show for it. So you have to invest in yourself. First hire would be an assistant. Document your processes.
Billy, I agree with you. I think that's awesome stuff. The problem with that is that it's not sexy. Nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, but guess what? Sexy comes eventually. Because guess where I am right now? I'm 10 years in the business, and I don't have to work. I'm as sexy as a motherfucker right now. Sexy comes in time, my man. So you might have to, I get it. I get it. Listen, what's sexy is whacking out deals and working your ass off right now, making in that money. But if you want to have a business that serves you to where you can have the lifestyle of a real business owner, not a business that owns you, you're going to have to do things differently. And to each his own. I want to own businesses that serve me, that give me cash flow, that give me equity, that I can now not work if I choose not to. My personality style, I enjoy working. It's not work. I love what I do. I can do this 80 hours a week and not get tired. It's just who I am. But sometimes I choose not to work for 3 weeks at a time. I'm going away. I'm going to this place. I'm hanging out. You know what? I'll work 4 hours today because I can.
Yeah.
So it all depends on what I want. I have the ability to choose. And that freedom of choosing, to me, is the absolute biggest blessing in my life, because I can choose what I want to do with whom I want to do it with, when I want to do it.
And it didn't come overnight. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And it's a process. It's a gradual process. And you got to put in the work. got to put in the work. Before we go, last thing I want to ask you about, you've already name dropped Millionaire Success Habits, As a Man Thinketh, James Allen, Michael Gerber, The E-Myth. You're name dropping all these books, and you talk also, it sounds like you walk the walk by reading the books, and you talk the talk by talking about reading. You talk about investing in yourself. How important is reading to your success?
So great question. And everybody has a different appetite. So I went through a period of my life where I read, I had an appetite and a half, and I read a lot. When I say a lot, I was reading a book a week. To me, that's a lot. At this point, I maybe read 10 to 12 books a year, but I still read. And so I look at reading where that's the book. I'm reading 10 to 12 a year. I think it's the utmost important thing to nourish your mind from people's past experiences on what's worked for them by learning, by reading the books, and by going to masterminds. I do it in networking events, the masterminds, the reading. I'm on blogs. I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, which is almost like the new way of reading now. So I'm always doing something. And so when I go to the gym, I'm a multitasker. So when I'm working out with the weights, it's all about my psychology, and I'm getting myself pumped up to kill it. And then when I do my 40 minutes of cardio, I'm all about nourishing my body and my mind at the same time. So I'm listening either to a podcast or an audiobook every day, every single day. But if I had to say hardcore books that I read, 12 a year right now. And I wish it could be more, because I watch you, dude, and I'm like, how in the fuck does he read as much as he reads? And I know you wake up and you're doing like 2 hours a day.
It's a season. I think what you just said is dead on. It's a season that I'm in.
Got it. And that's important. And I like that. It is a season, because I go through seasons in my life where I'm working on me, and that working on me would be first learning it. I'll have a vivacious appetite where I will take in a lot of information, and then I'll stop with taking in the information and I start applying it and putting it in either my business or myself. And that might go for 6 months to a year. And then I go right back to bringing it back in. I want to learn something else, and I take in all the information on a subject, and then I go and I start implementing, executing. And I'm glad you said that. I like that. It's a season.
Yeah, and it is. And there's, I think if you're brand new and you're not reading anything, pick up a book and start reading 10 pages a day. It's not a big deal. 10 pages a day. That's nothing. That'll take you like 20 minutes. So, Billy, thank you so much, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I think this is one of my favorite shows. I really appreciate it. I don't know if it's the New York accent or just the authenticity. It's rare you get it. It's rare you get that true authenticity and that true heart. So I appreciate you, man.
Listen, I admire you. I respect you. I appreciate you. I've been watching you online. You and I met, but I was following you prior to, and you're doing a lot of good things for a lot of people out there. And there's a lot of newbies that if they're not following you, they should, because you're authentic, you're real, you say it how it is. And your personality, even though we're from different parts of the country, Alabama, New York, we're similar in a lot of ways. And I'm getting that. The more I'm getting to know you, I'm understanding you. And I'm like, this dude is fucking solid, because you speak your mind. When you believe in something, you believe in it, man. And you're not going to you're not going to remain silent just because. You're not going to be a dick either, but you're going to say it how it is. And some people might take that as being a dick. Some people might take it as being a dick. It is what it is, man.
Billy, you're the man. I appreciate those words. I appreciate you, man. Love you, brother.
I got you, brother. Absolutely. It was a good show, man. Thanks for having me on.
Great show. Guys, hit the subscribe button. We got some incredible guests on the line, on the horizon. So make sure you're subscribed. We love you so much, and we'll see you next time.